let's get to my NFL Week 3 2025 recap. In the money line, I went 10 and 6. That puts me at 32 and 16. So two-thirds of the way through the year. Feeling really good about that score. As I said, typically, I'm around the 500 mark. Last year in the money line, I was 25 and 23. So that's a 7 game increase from last year to this year. In best bets, I went 3 for 5 again. I hit the Steelers, I hit the Chiefs, and I hit the Bears. I missed the Texans. That hurt. And it would have really hurt if I would have got the Texans last night's Monday Night Football game with the Ravens not covering 5.5. So we've gone 3 for 5 every single week in best bets. That's 9 of 15 on the year. Are we just bound to have a 3 for 5 week? But let's start with the Bills and the Dolphins on Thursday night. I said division game, 11.5. I said Buffalo could kill them, but I don't know. Miami season on the line. It feels like a lot of points. Feels like there's better bets on the board. Buffalo obviously ends up winning by 10. Uh, but Miami was on the right side of it. Miami came out, they played like their season was on the line. It was a very weird game where Miami could not stop Buffalo in the first half. Miami put together two very good drives. The first drive of the game, they went down and scored. They went up 7-0. That's when I said, oh, we have a game here. The way the Dolphins are, their offensive linemen are flying off the ball. And then obviously Tua Tagovailoa makes the big mistake late to pretty much steal it. Buffalo could have got a touchdown to cover. They end up getting a field goal though, winning by 10. And you look at this Bills schedule. The next two games up front are the Saints and the Patriots. They should be 5-0 after those two games. Everybody else in the division at most has one win. And that was the New England Patriots in week 2. So, you know, I look at this and I say, okay, Buffalo's going to run away with this division. The earliest I believe a team has clinched the division would be week 10. We could be seeing a record here with the Buffalo Bills. They're going to run away with this AFC East. Josh Allen is a wagon. James Cook is having a very good year. The Dolphins and the Jets. Now, the Jets aren't going to fire Aaron Glenn at 0-3, but the Dolphins are going to fire Mike McDaniel. Possibility if he goes 0-4. That's a Monday night game down in South Beach. This will be Miami's third consecutive AFC East bout. If they start 0-3 in the division, then as I told everybody over the year, the Dolphins are going to finish in fourth place in this division. That's just the way I see it. And then we get to Sunday where, how about Jordan Davis costing all you Rams bettors that had the Rams plus 3.5 to cover as my Eagles won that game 33-26 after being down 19-7 at halftime, 26-7 moments into the third quarter after the Eagles got the ball to start the third. Jared Verse nails Jalen Hurts. There is a fumble. Rams get it. There's a play action rollout pass to Kyron Williams. The very next play, it's 26-7. At this point, Jalen Hurts has -1 passing yards, and the air just fell out of that building in Philadelphia. The Eagles did not even try to throw the ball to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith in the first half. It was a very conservative game plan. And then they just said, you know what, let's go up tempo and start throwing the football. And, the Rams were committing 9, 10 guys to Saquon Barkley. It left one-on-one matchups for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts took advantage, and Jalen Hurts made some good throws. And the defense also stepped up. Now, the first half, I did not like my team's defensive game plan. They were giving up too many yards on the wide zone to Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. The Rams were running the football down the throat of Vic Fangio's defense. The Eagles were again, though, able to make second half adjustments, keep themselves in the game. Obviously, the blocked kick when it was 26-21 was a turning point. Jalen Hurts on the fourth and goal throws the pass to Devontae Smith. It is a touchdown. End up not getting the two, but the blocked kick ends up saving the day. It almost ironically similar to the Rams Eagles divisional round playoff game, except that one was not played in a snowstorm on Sunday, where the Rams had momentum. the Rams were either coming back off a Philadelphia comeback or the Rams were coming back when they were down 2 touchdowns in the game. And the Eagles made one more play better than the Rams. I do think the Rams match up very well with the Eagles. I think they're one of the few teams that can get pressure on the Eagles' offensive line. And the biggest difference, not only in the offensive tempo in the second half, but Wayne Johnson went down after the first touchdown. Wayne Johnson had a neck injury. Of course, the first touchdown came off the brother we shove. We know the controversy that brought with it going into the game, was not really much of a controversy this week. But Wayne Johnson goes out. The Rams target his backup, Matt Pryor, who is just getting destroyed on the offensive line. All the timing felt off. And in the second half, the Eagles' offensive line, they go from Matt Johnson, the second string, or Matt Pryor, I should say, the second string, to Fred Johnson, the third string right tackle. And he seemed to settle down the offensive line, gave Jalen Hurts a lot more protection. And it is my birthday, if you guys don't know, 6 days from now, September 29th. The Eagles typically always do lose on my birthday weekend, and we go to Tampa coming up, which is a bad matchup for this Eagles team. It always has been since they acquired Baker Mayfield a few years ago. Okay, I said don't touch the Browns game. Don't touch them at 8.5. This could be a weird game, and it was. Going into the fourth quarter, Packers are up 10-0. Browns get a field goal. It's 10-3. Jordan Love makes a bad throw on the interception. Quinshon Judkins scores a touchdown. It's 10-10. And then Josh Jacobs fumbles. The referees say he got the ball back when he did not. It should have been Browns' ball. Packers line up for a field goal. The Browns block it. And then Andre Smith with the 55-yarder, 13-10. Browns win over the Packers. This was one of those weird games this week where it was a go either way game. The Browns defense has been playing their ass off, even though they gave up 41 points to the Ravens in week two. A lot of that was because of the offense fumbling or giving up a pick six or a fumble return for a touchdown or a blocked punt. You know, it's what happens when Joe Flacco is the quarterback. Joe Flacco has been dropping back many more times than he should this year. He's dumping the football down. It's mostly been Dylan Sampson, Quinshon Judkins, and the two tight ends, and Njoku and Farron in the passing game. They are, for whatever reason, it feels like refusing to get the ball to Jerry Jeudy. If you're listening to this and you're in either one of my two fantasy football leagues, which I'll talk about my one painful loss when we get to Monday Night Football, but I'm trying to get rid of Jerry Jeudy as fast as possible. And listen, the AFC North is down so far this year. Joe Burrow's not there for the Bengals. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens are 1-2. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers 2-1. The Browns somehow beat the Lions Sunday, which they won't. They'd be in first place. And everybody in town, including myself, wants to make a quarterback change because there is no point for this team to play Joe Flacco. The Browns have a very good defense. Could be a top three defense in the NFL this year. And they're wasting it because their offense can barely move the ball except off turnovers. And this offense is bad. It's anemic. It's uncreative. But they found a way to win the game. And now Green Bay can take their anger out on the Dallas Cowboys. Sunday Night Football. Micah Parsons is return. Okay, I don't even know what that was in Minnesota. The Vikings absolutely destroyed Cincinnati. They made Jake Browning see ghosts. Maybe it was Brian Flores. Maybe it's Jake Browning isn't good. I don't know. We'll find out when Cincinnati goes to Denver next Monday night. I mean, there's not a lot to say. Vikings obliterated Cincinnati from the start. Carson Wentz, my old buddy, former Philadelphia Eagle, former Indianapolis Colt, former Niner, former Ram, former Chief. He ends up 70% completion percentage, gets a couple touchdowns, and ends up just driving this wagon because the defense was incredible for Minnesota. I said I like Pittsburgh minus 1.5. The way they played against Seattle in week two, I thought they were going to bounce back. They did early. They were up 14-0 early and then didn't score again till the fourth quarter. And the only reason why they won this game is because Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice at the goal line and Drake May for three bad interceptions. And I like Drake May going into the year. I thought that Josh McDaniels was going to bring a calming presence to this offense, and he has somewhat. It's been a little bit rocky for the first three games, and you looked at that schedule and you said, okay, Vegas, Miami, Pittsburgh, Carolina, could they be 2-2? And they can be 2-2 here. They go beat the Panthers next week, which the Panthers just laid it on Atlanta 30-0. What the hell was that? The Panthers have had the Falcons number, you know. Michael Penix played really bad after Atlanta shocked the world. They go to Minnesota, they shocked the world on Sunday Night Football. Then they play like absolute dog crap. They did not take the Panthers seriously. And Carolina said it's a divisional game, and we're not going to let what happened the last few years to our franchise being a dumpster fire happen here in week three. And they got the win. And then in the NFC South, their other team, the Buccaneers, they were 27-9 going into the fourth quarter against the Jets. And a blocked field goal return for a touchdown gave the Jets the lead with just under a minute left at 27-26. Baker Mayfield had to come back and drive them down the field and win the game 29-27. Tampa Bay has had three game winning drives this year. They are 3-0. They should be 2-1. I mean, Young Wei Koo should have made the kick, in week one. Tampa and Atlanta should both be 2-1. It's at Tampa's 3-0. Atlanta's 1-2. And Baker Mayfield has been very clutch this year. He's been calm. He's been good. And this in Jigba, or Buka, excuse me, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this rookie wide receiver out of Ohio State. I said it after week one against the Falcons, but even more so now with the Mike Evans injury. He has a real chance to be the offensive rookie of the year. He's an absolute stud. He really is what Marvin Harrison should be for the Arizona Cardinals. And for the Jets, listen, they fought hard. Tyrod Taylor was at quarterback. He had a bad pick six. But this season now is rapidly going down the tube. I thought these Jets were going to be like the Detroit Lions in year one under Dan Campbell, except the fact that Aaron Glenn had a better defense already with him. And it does look like the Jets, while they're competing, they're going to be taking their lumps as well. Um, Again, that's a very interesting game Monday night down in Miami, where Tampa takes on the Eagles, a team that they have owned over the last couple of years. I was shocked with Marcus Mariota how easy the Commanders moved the ball against the Raiders. And, I know that Chip Kelly and Marcus Mariota are on opposite sides of the ball, essentially from play calling against each other. But I thought, Chip would give some insight into what Marcus Mariota was very good at when they were at Oregon. Who knows? Maybe Mariota told them about Chip Kelly's scheme and offense, and the Commanders were ready for it because they were. And the Raiders looked unprepared. They looked sloppy. They got out coached. They looked like they were going to walk in there against a backup quarterback, and their defense was going to win the game, and they were going to get out there with a victory. And they got clobbered. And, now they bounce back at home against the Bears, who are coming off a good win. The Raiders are a team who I predicted to be a surprise team this year in the NFL and go to the playoffs. At this point, they're three games back against the Chargers, including the tiebreaker because they watched the Chargers in week two. So they need to focus on that wild card. I think they could start 1-3 and potentially still make the playoffs. But that was a bad loss there against Washington on Sunday. Now, Washington has Atlanta, which is a very interesting game because Atlanta got embarrassed. I think coming back home, Atlanta's going to play well. I tend to try to bet against the Falcons, but I hit them in week two. We'll see if I do it again in week four. I think the Colts are for real, guys. I think the Colts are going to win this division. I think Daniel Jones has turned back into the 2022 Daniel Jones that he was with the New York Giants. Now, Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans, they just don't have an offensive line. They don't have weapons. Cam Ward's out there running for his life. The Titans are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, along with their division mate, the Houston Texans. Because let's talk about these two games simultaneously. CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans are 0-3. They lost 17-10 to Jacksonville. The only touchdown they got was a freebie touchdown to Nico Collins off a double move. And I talk about this all the time. I talk about it with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. I talk about it with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Now I'm going to talk about it with CJ Stroud in Houston. What do all three of those teams have in common? Steelers, Texans, Bills. We all thought, and Pittsburgh would have more back in the day as a currently, but we all thought, oh, Buffalo's Super Bowl contender. Houston's a very good team. They have star quarterbacks, or at least Pittsburgh used to. Ben Roethlisberger, C.J. Stroud, Josh Allen. But all three of them have defensive head coaches. And for whatever reason, defensive head coaches struggle with rebuilding offensive lines. Andy Reid rebuilds the Chiefs' offensive line in an offseason every time he needs to. Sean Payton took the worst offensive line in Denver, made them a top 7 8 unit in the league. You look at what Dan Campbell has done with the Lions' offensive line. We know the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the game. All of those guys offensive head coaches. So CJ Stroud is getting killed. I don't think he's regressed to the fact where he's not a good quarterback anymore. I do think he's regressed. But I talk about this a lot with Nick Sirianni, right? Jalen Hurts regressed because they got the wrong coordinator. And Josh Allen in 2023 regressed under Ken Dorsey because they had the wrong coordinator. And Pittsburgh had who? Who was their coordinator before um, Arthur Smith. I forget his name, but everybody in town hated him. It was the guy right after Todd Haley. Steelers fans, you know who I'm talking about. So it's all about getting the right coordinator. Clearly, Houston doesn't have it. I don't know if Brian Callahan's the right guy for Tennessee. I think he's an offensive minded head coach, but I think his in game situations have been terrible. Clearly, Shane Steichen is the right guy to get Daniel Jones back on track. And I said, going into the year, I didn't know what to make about the Colts. Obviously, the passing of Jim Irsay. You had them moving on from Anthony Richardson, who I liked as a prospect, for Daniel Jones, who I did not like as a prospect, even coming out of Duke. But the Colts are for real. They got players. They punted the football one time. Daniel Jones is playing really high level football. And Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen, looks like so far he's the guy for Jacksonville. I think the two winners on Sunday, the Colts and the Jags, are the two teams that are going to be fighting for the AFC South at the end of this year. Now, the Chargers, with a game winning field goal, they covered 2.5. They end up defeating the Denver Broncos by 3, 23-20. Denver had that incredible comeback when they were down 10-0 to get 17 unanswered. But Bo Nix has missed a couple of throws. You know, he missed a couple play action, flea flicker type plays down the field with guys wide open that could have changed that game. But the fact of the matter is, Denver is 1-2, Kansas City is 1-2, Vegas is 1-2, and the Chargers are 3-0, 3-0 in the division. And so this AFC West to me looks like a lock right now. The Los Angeles Chargers are winning the division. Jim Harbaugh has Justin Herbert playing some of his best football. They did lose Najee Harris to a torn ACL, so we'll see. Hopefully, for my fantasy team's sake, Amari and Hampton gets more work going forward. But I said going into the year, I know the Rashawn Slater injury was bad for the Chargers, but I trusted Joe Alt moving from the right to the left side. I just didn't know how good their right tackle was going to be. But it never made any sense to me that Denver was all of a sudden jumping them. Because I had it between Denver and Vegas for third and fourth place in the AFC West. I thought they were very interchangeable. I did not buy that Denver was going to be this all world Super Bowl contender this year. I thought they beat up on a lot of bad football teams last year. I thought Bo Nix could have a little bit of a regression the way CJ Stroud did in year two. All of that looks correct right now. Don't even need to talk about Seahawks Saints. That game was over in the first quarter when Seattle went up 21-0. Sam Darnold looks better in a Seahawks uniform than I thought he would. That's all I really got to say on that. Easy cover at -7. Took him in Survivor. Should have took him in Best Bets. Um, Now Arizona killed me, right? Because that safety, they were up 15-13. I thought they were gonna pull a rabbit out of the hat. The line was Arizona -1.5. We all know Vegas always knows, and yet it was the Niners who won the game by one. Now Mac Jones has played well. He's 2-0 in replacement of Brock Purdy. Those two wins did come against the Saints, and Arizona, and now at 2-1 and not playing well for the first 3 weeks against Carolina, New Orleans, and San Francisco. We don't know how good Arizona really is, but they did lose Nick Bosa for the year with the torn ACL. And they don't really have another horse in the pass rushing game. Maybe they decide to go out and get one at the trade deadline. San Francisco is 3-0. They are up top of the NFC West. But at this moment, Seattle and the Rams are playing much better football than the Niners. And I said the Bears season was on the line, and Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams took it personally to Caleb Williams, his former head coach, now the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, Matt Eberflus. Guys wide open all day. Ben Johnson running reverses. That looked like the Bears offense that he was bringing with him from Detroit, and that was easily the best game I thought Caleb Williams had as a pro. And the Bears defense stepped up with Dennis Allen there. They really made a good adjustment. Dennis Allen has played the Cowboys a lot of times in the past. That probably helped. Bears easily covered the -1.5. Now, on the Dallas side, the biggest concern is, of course, the injury to C.D. Lamb, where this is where I do give credit to Jerry Jones. In the past, they were a C.D. Lamb or bust offense. They did go out and get George Pickens this offseason, who did have a touchdown. George Pickens is used to having the number one receiver on him and not really getting the ball a lot in Pittsburgh. I think the same case can be made in Dallas. They are using Javonte Turpin, who was a returner mostly last year. They're using him a ton in the receiving game this year. But I think it is a storm that is coming down to Dallas, Texas. The return of Micah Parsons this Sunday. This is why I did not like the Cowboys going into the year, because I looked at that schedule and I said there's not a lot of W's on that schedule for the first month of the season. I predicted them to start 1-3, and that was even with Micah Parsons. I'm going to predict them to start 1-3 again. Listen, the Giants are bad. The question is just going to be, when do they go to Jackson Dart? Chiefs did not play their best, but they did their thing. They got their win. They're still without Xavier Worthy and Rasheed Rice. I am now interested to see. You have the Chiefs at 1-2. You have the Ravens at 1-2. 4:25 on CBS. I'm not touching this game at this point in time now because both teams are desperate. Because I had the Ravens -5.5 last night, and the Detroit Lions, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely blew them off the football for most of the game. And the Lions, who we had real concerns about week one after they brought in two new coordinators, they got boat raced by the Green Bay Packers, who physically took their will in week one. They put a 55 on the Bears, and they just ran the football down the throat of one of the best defenses in the NFL in the Baltimore Ravens last night. And Jared Goff, I know it's warm weather, but he's typically worse outside than he is indoors. I thought that was one of the most impressive performances by the Lions up front on both the offensive and defense sides of the ball in a long time. The Ravens did not get a sack on Goff. The Lions got, I believe, 7 sacks on Lamar Jackson, who looked hesitant to run all night. And the Ravens are 1-2. I predicted the Bengals to win this division going into the year. I thought the Ravens were going to be a wild card team, but I thought there was going to be a slight regression. And I'm telling you right now, with the Joe Burrow injury, with Kansas City looming over Baltimore, a team the Ravens can seem to never beat, the door is open right now. If Pittsburgh can go defeat Minnesota in London this coming week, for the Steelers to be 3-1 and for Aaron Rodgers to lead Pittsburgh on top of the AFC North. And finally, folks, I was up in a fantasy league. I was up like 150 to 148.98. I was up 150.2 to 148.98. I had Derrick Henry and the Ravens kicker Tyler Loop. He was out of players. And Derrick Henry fumbles the football. I go back down to 148.02. So at this point, it is 148.98, my opponent, to 148.02, me. Did you know the Ravens scored a touchdown with Mark Andrews after that David Montgomery touchdown to ice the game? It was 38-30 Lions. Instead of the Ravens kicking the extra point to make it a 7-point game at 38-31 and give me the fantasy win with a Tyler Loop extra point, Instead, they go for two. Maybe it's karma for that field goal they counted for Baltimore that probably should not have counted. I don't know, but it was the worst fantasy loss I ever suffered in my life. Hashtag fantasy wife. That fumble by Derrick Henry killed me. It killed the Ravens. It killed all momentum. My man Jalen Sandvik and his Detroit Lions, a big upset to go to 2-1 on the year. Despite that, though, still a pretty good week. Again, 10-6 in the money line, 32-16 on the year, 3 for 5 in best bets for a total of 9-15 so far. Through week 3, my hometown Browns won. My favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles, won. Both at the same time and both in dramatic fashion. Browns making a kick, Eagles blocking a kick. It was a good week 3 for me personally until Monday Night Football happened in fantasy football. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.